Hello everyone, welcome back. This is a ClipstudioPaint time-lapse recording. It's a bit different than a normal screen recording because this one only captures the taps on the tablet, meaning it only records the canvas and whatever action you take on the canvas. So it does not capture things like switching between layer modes or lasso tool or rotating the canvas. So if you feel like it's going just way too fast, it's actually because it's just recording steps and not the whole process. I do use a lot of the lasso tool, a lot of zooming and zoom out, and a lot of canvas rotating. So the good thing about time-lapse recording is that the canvas stays put, so you won't get dizzy and I don't have to speed up the video. It might not look like it, but this illustration took more than 50 hours to complete it. Okay, so moving on. This is an illustration I made for a contest hosted by Yuni. I fell in love with her character design and the fluffy tail, and I wanted to make a large illustration like a wallpaper. I also wanted to capture her hands and dark claws. I thought those were really interesting design choices, and I love the combination of those with the gentle character. So I sketched out a general idea, and I actually started working on the line art. This actually takes me a lot of time, but from the whole process, I think the line art is probably one of my favorite parts. In this part I'm zooming a lot so that I can make detailed line art. Towards the end of the illustration, I'm actually coloring the line art in softer shades. So for now I'm just using a black color for the line art, and you'll see me switching different colors for the sketch. It's just an easier way to notice all the details that I want to add. I make a new layer for each and every object that I feel it's important. So for example, I made a new layer for the hair and I just use one color for that part. I made a new layer for the skirt and used a specific color for it. I also named the layers via the color used, so they will be easier to find. Now I feel like the line art phase can actually be skipped. You can just start off with colors if you want to and just add parts of the line art at the end if you prefer it like that. I just find it easier for me to just make the whole line art in one go, and I'm making it on different layers, so if I need to change something it will be easier to do so. I had a few drawings where I drew the line art on the same layer, everything, and then I saw some mistakes and I had to redo them again, so that wasn't too fun to do. But once I'm happy with every layer and every item, I will go back, make a copy of the layers, merge everything down and erase parts of the lines that do not match. This is just my preference. You can just keep the layer and just work with the color underneath it. Here I'm doing the frills on a different layer with a different name. I feel like if you do these parts on different colors, you can probably see more easier the full shape and what you need to change. I'm almost done with this, so this is the part when I'm going to make a copy of the line art and just merge everything down and actually make it one color. I had a general idea for the illustration, but I wasn't sure the direction I want to go, so I just started with something simple, something that I enjoy and I find it easier for me, so that was actually the line art. It's one of the reasons I spent so much time on it, but there are many ways to go around it, so see what works for you. And if you enjoy some parts of the drawing, just focus on that part and try to develop it or master it as best as you can. I always liked looking at painterly drawings, however I don't think it's a very strong point for me, but I do enjoy the line art, so I'm actually focusing more on that. Here I'm going through each and every layer, erase parts of it and just merge it with the layer. Don't forget to make a copy just in case you need them, and just place it in another folder. Here I'm also zooming in and out and adding a bit more details, like a wavy line or a thin line and a thick line variation. And I'm also adding small details and making sure every line looks good in close-up. I've also made a new folder with the background layers and just testing it out. I already added the main colors. And here I selected the character and just use the bucket to make it one color. This will serve as a base for future colors. Every new layer that I make with the colors, it's gonna be clipped to the base layer. And here I'm just adding base colors. I don't worry too much about the shape because for each and every color I'm just gonna add shadows. So I made a skin layer, a skirt layer, a hair layer, and different layers named by colors, like a light pink layer for the light pink details and a dark pink layer for the darker shades. Just organize the layers how you would understand. However, if you're working for a client, just organize the layer or rename them so that they can understand. But otherwise, just go with what you're comfortable with. Here I'm adding more details on the face since I think it's important. I also zoomed in a bit, but I feel like it's losing the quality, so that's a bit of a disappointment. The canvas size is over 7000 pixels, so it's a really big canvas. If you zoom in on this canvas, it will not get pixelated. However, for this video, I think the maximum size was 1K. Therefore, zooming in would just lose quality. And here I'm spending a lot of time working on the hair. I mainly, for each and every layer actually, I use a base color, a shadow color, the shadow color on multiply layer mode, a highlight, sometimes on overlay, sometimes on screen, or sometimes just a normal layer. And if I need to, I would go in and add another color for extra details. I wanted a bit more texture on this drawing, so I did a lot of small lines for each part of the hair. You can just use a texture brush if you want to, but I just used the normal default brush, a simple round brush, and just add extra lines for a silky effect on the hair. And once I'm done with a part, a layer, for example the hair, I will just go and merge every mode on a single layer. So this way I can stay organized with the files and just have one hair layer. I will also go and erase parts that are merging with each other. For example, I used the zoom in and the lasso tool to erase the hair nuance from the skin layer. I go and do this for each and every main color layer. I found this to be the fastest way to keep track on each and every layer. An illustration can take probably more than 100 layers, so if you can keep organized as best you can, it's just gonna save you a lot of time. Also, if you merge layers like this, you can actually color tonal correction to your own advantage, like color hue, brightness, contrast, and you can get a lot more color variation with that. Here I decided to start working in the background a bit. Sometimes it's tiresome to work on small details, so might as well just work on something a bit different. I took a photo of my hand and just looked at it and made a sketch. I was happy with the character, I just needed to add more environment and mood to see if I like the direction. Sometimes, or maybe most of the times, we don't have a clear vision with the drawing, so it's best to just test it out. I also had a few problems with my tablet, and if you see weird random lines, it's because of that. I did upgrade the software and I think it kinda solved parts of the problem. My tablet is really old though. I've been using it for over 7 years and I'm still surprised it's working fine. Okay, and here I use the lasso tool to make a lot of selection and just use the bucket to fill out colors, erase parts of it, and also use the airbrush. I added particle texture and a lot of small lines. And I was really looking forward to draw the claws. I just made a new layer and just worked a bit on every part of it. And after that, just erase extra color, make a new layer and add extra color. Here I duplicate the whole layer, use the tonal correction to make it a lot darker and erase parts of it. And if you do that, you will actually make an easier highlight. And this is the part where I work a bit on everything. I jump from one place on the canvas to another. I use a few particle brushes. I duplicate layers underneath layers, made them one color and just add a glowing effect or a blur effect or a motion effect. And once I'm happy with the overall view, I just go back and work on the character. So here I'm continuing with the white details on the character, and I'm just repeating the process, adding main base color, a shadow layer, a lighter color layer, and another extra shadow layer if I feel the need to. I also went around and added the skirt detail. No need for line art on this. I felt it was way more natural to just draw it. However, the thorns do have a specific outline, but after you've drawn the shape, you can actually just select it, go to the edit and choose outline selection. And you can actually add a very fast outline. So sometimes it's no need to actually draw the line art. And here I'm continuing with the darker nuance for the frills. And after I'm done, I'm just erasing parts of it that go over the line. And here I'm going back on the background layer. I decided to add a bluish layer. I think it's on screen mode with transparency. And I used a bit of a smudge tool to make some kind of water effect. And here I'm going back and forth with different particle brushes and see what I like best. I also went back on the skirt design and actually redraw roses. I did actually redraw all of them. If you find it easier, you can just make one and just duplicate it. I just really enjoy the process, so I just drew all of them. And I added color, a bit of shadow, and also be mindful of the thorns if I want them over the roses or under them. I did rotate the canvas a lot, so I am going to spare you the dizziness. I think this is the main advantage when I'm using ClipstudioPaint timelapse. I think it's easier to follow when the canvas is not spinning around all that much. I went back on the background layer. I hid the character so it's not very distracting. And I used the symmetry ruler and made a line in the middle. This way I can just work on one object and it will mirror it. Adjust everything how you need them to be, I guess. And on the character layer I actually added another bluish tone on multiply and just used the blurry eraser to make highlights. So actually when you use the eraser it feels like you're erasing light. And for the last steps I did just play around with random brushes. I mean, they're not quite random, I kinda knew what effect I wanted to reach. I just didn't really know what brushes might work, so I tested out some to see which one I like best. And here I'm going back to add details on the fabric layer. I'm adding a shadow, a highlight and an extra shadow, and just erasing parts of it that go over the line. I smudge everything down and just color adjust anything if I need to. The transparent, lighter looking skirt I kept on different layers because I wanted to erase parts of it, so it was an easy approach to just keep it on different layer. And a few extra touch-ups, a few extra water lines, and a lot of smudge tool. And I'm almost done. I also duplicate the character and just tried to add it in the background to see if I like the look. And I also added a few extra sparks and a few more adjustments, color adjustments. And that's it. I hope you enjoy and see you next time. Bye bye!